Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat. I am here today with Dr. Ashley Lucas. Dr. Ashley Lucas holds a PhD in sports nutrition and chronic disease and is also a registered dietitian. She is PhD weight loss founder. She comes to the field of nutrition and weight management with a unique background, as she was previously a professional ballet dancer. Her career was constantly met with injury and a struggle to meet the required ballet-specific body type. As a result, she retired from her professional dancing career, understood the importance nutrition played in her own athletic performance, and started along her path to becoming an expert in the field of nutrition and wellness. Following 15 plus years of research and clinical practice, Dr. Lucas developed PhD's science-based approach that revolutionized the science of weight loss. Her approach focuses on metabolic wellness, inflammation reduction, and behavioral emotional support that creates profound, sustainable transformation in the body and mind. Dr. Lucas recently released her new groundbreaking ebook, The Ultimate Weight Loss Secrets. She helps those who have failed over and over again with previous weight loss attempts to finally find long-term success. And today was so good with Ashley. I just had to laugh when she said she was a professional ballerina. It took me back to the days when my friend Sono Harris, which is Joshua Harris, who wrote the New York Times bestseller about basically abstaining from dating until you're married. That was his mother, and we were friends. And I remember, well, she was a little older than me, and my mom was in the hospital, and she was teaching me all sorts of things, but she was a professional ballet dancer. So we were learning she was teaching me how to make cherry pie and Japanese chicken and all this stuff. She was trying to take up where my mom kind of left off for a little bit because she was in the hospital for a while. And I remember she was trying to teach me ballet, you guys. Oh my gosh, I was like a bull in the china shop because I'm more of an athlete. And I remember she was like, no, I don't think you'll ever make it as a ballet dancer. So that's why you guys are all lucky to have me at the Sisterhood of Sweat. I would have had that other illustrious career. No, I'm kidding. Yes, I was not going to make it as a ballet dancer. So I have huge admiration for Ashley today, that she was a professional ballet dancer. Today, we talk a lot about why weight loss is not your fault. If you're not losing weight, why it isn't your fault, why we experience the yo-yo phenomenon when we're dieting, how weight loss is more complicated than calories in, calories out, and why a holistic approach to weight loss behavioral therapy is essential for successful weight loss, and the addiction recovery process when it comes to weight loss, and how stress impacts losing weight, and also why she says exercise isn't a great weight loss tool, and how to stop cravings and hunger, how to get rid of them, and the whole science behind your body basically when you're overdoing something, how it wants to protect you or it makes up for it. Like if you're over exercising, it adjusts because it's the way our body is made. So how to get a little smarter with what we're doing so we actually see good results. It was a great podcast today with Ashley. I hope you guys really enjoy this. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks so much, Linda, for having me. It's my pleasure.
Where are you from?
I'm originally from Seattle, Washington.
And where do you live now? Where do you reside?
Right now I'm in Asheville, North Carolina.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we love it.
So the weather's probably hot. Or is it hot there right now?
It's pretty warm, but it's a little bit higher elevation, tiny bit. So it cools it and it's not crazy humid. I love when it's warm. I love the humidity.
That you should move to Ohio.
Yeah,
That's where it's really
I've
humid.
lived in Ohio for 5 years,
Oh,
actually.
you did? Where did you
Yeah,
live?
in Columbus area.
Oh, okay. I'm about an hour and a half from there.
Where?
I live in Monroe and my studio is in Mason, Ohio.
Oh, nice. It is
Yeah.
very humid, not as humid here.
Oh my gosh, it's so hot today, you guys, that my dogs don't want to go out. So they're in. If you hear any little fur babies making noise,
Yeah,
we'll have to. I may be in a package, which means they'll go ballistic.
yeah, mine do the same. I
Oh my gosh.
understand.
Oh my gosh. Well, today, you guys, we're going to talk about one of the things that people spend millions and millions of dollars on over their lifespan, and time and effort. And I think Ashley has a lot of secrets for us today, but we're going to talk about weight loss today. And I want to know, when I see a book that you've written, Ashley, that says Ultimate Weight Loss Secrets, I am like, and I want some inside information. I want to know what are the secrets to losing weight, and are they really secrets?
Yeah, they're probably not secrets, but I think that we've been told for so long that weight gain is our fault and that to drop weight, you simply need to move more and eat less. And I don't believe that this message is the truth. And so in my ebook, I talk a lot about that and why we've gained weight as a society and what we can do about it, and not simply just look at ourselves as this simple equation, because I believe we're much more complicated than that.
Oh my gosh, for sure. All the processes that go on in our body. And if just one of them's off, like let's say your process of digestion is off and you're not digesting the food, even if you're eating salad and chicken, if you don't have good gut health or you don't have good digestion, then your food is not getting eliminated properly. You're going to probably still store some of it on your bod. How did you get into the field of weight loss?
So I was a professional ballet dancer before I got into the field of nutrition. And I started training when I was a real young girl. And I went to boarding school for it in high school and my undergraduate degrees in ballet performance. And I danced for quite a few years with professional companies around the country. And I was always struggling to maintain that unique physique. And I know you understand what that physique is from all of the fitness competitions that you've done. It's probably very similar. And my body just was rarely where it needed to be, despite me counting calories and fat grams like an expert bookkeeper. And I chronically restricted myself to try to maintain that aesthetic demand. And if I was lean enough, then I was injured with stress fractures and you name it. And so at one point in my career, near the end of it, I was flown up to New York to perform. And instead of finding myself in the spotlight of those once in a lifetime performances, I landed in the ER. And I didn't know what was going on. I thought I was having a heart attack, but after a whole bunch of tests, the neurologist said that I was simply underfed and overexercised and that my body couldn't take it anymore. So I was having a panic attack pretty much. And my body was just done.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah. And for me, it was a huge deal. I mean, I was afraid of my health future. I had no idea what was going on inside. And I felt like a complete failure because I was flown home alone and I just had to step away from a career that most people would have said I hadn't quite made it yet. And so I know it doesn't sound like a big deal, but to me it was
It is a huge
20.
deal.
Yeah,
That's a huge deal.
it was a long time of struggling and sacrificing my identity. And I didn't quite know what to do with myself at that point, but I did understand how significantly nutrition or lack thereof impacted my own sport performance. So I went on and pursued that. And that's how I ended up earning my PhD in sports nutrition and chronic disease.
So here you mean it's a huge thing. I understand it completely because I was really at my peak in my competing, because I didn't start, I was a late bloomer. I didn't start until late, but I was really peaking and I was ready for a show, and I ripped my entire hamstring from the pelvis. And I didn't realize that's what I did. I knew I did something, but the x-ray tech, it was, late at night. They never came back to tell me the results. And it was 1 or 2 in the morning, and we just decided to go home. We could get the results later. And I was just going to fly out to see what I could do. If I couldn't do my fitness, the dance, the gymnastics, the strength moves, the splits, the whole, if I couldn't do that, because some people don't know, are you competing in bikini, figure, fitness? What is it you're doing? I thought I'll at least walk, I'll try to walk and it's just walking.
That is such
I
a
was
painful
not
injury.
walking. It was awful. And basically I can identify with what you said, because it was not that. It was 1, 2, 3 injuries later that were all that bad. I ripped my groin from the pelvis, and then I popped my hamstring in the back. I didn't know what was going on with me. I've always been able to power through, and I have this do or die mentality, no pain, no gain kind of thing. And which I feel like I could relate to your story as you were telling it. And your body knows when you're pushing it past the limit, it's going to shut down on you. And I just have to say also, if anybody is out there that's going through perimenopause and menopause, don't work out more. It isn't a good idea, because your tendons are getting tighter, your ligaments are getting looser, and you can get injuries like I did, which really slowed me down.
Totally.
So you're better off always to just get the science, listen to your body, and be smart about what you're doing. Because didn't you go through like a whole identity crisis? Where you were a professional dancer, that was your dream, and then it's like taken away, and you're like, who am I?
Totally. I mean, it was probably 3 to 4 years until I felt okay. And I still did a little bit of dancing on the side just because I couldn't live without it. And I directed a local ballet studio. I went to school for my doctoral work in Blacksburg, Virginia at Virginia Tech. So fortunately, there was a really great dance studio around there. And I was able to work with a lot of great young dancers and make big change. And that's what I love to do, is I like to see dramatic change in people. And so I get to use all of those skills and those passions in what I do now. And after I finished my doctoral work, I went on and taught at The Ohio State University in Ohio. And I decided that while I love the research and the science behind all of this, it's really, really interesting stuff. I really like to work one-on-one with people. So I went back to school and I completed my dietetic internship to be a registered dietitian so that I could, be this expert in the field of weight management. But I found out what I learned during that time was all the same mantra: the calories in, calories out, eat low fat, everything in moderation. And I knew for me, I had, a lot of discipline as a dancer, that as a fitness competitor. We have a lot of discipline.
Yes.
And so I knew that didn't work for me. And my research didn't show that was really the truth and how the body works. And so I flipped everything upside down, what I learned during that time, and created what we now implement in all of our offices and our nationwide program.
Yeah. And I bet you were like Were you ever tempted, like you wanted to go back into dancing and think you're better?
I was tempted because I just loved it so much. I mean, it was an obsession. But you know, when you're really good at something and you go back to it and you're not quite as good anymore, because to stay in that peak performance state, you have to practice all
Yeah,
the time.
right.
So I would go back, but it just didn't feel the same. I wasn't as powerful. I wasn't as flexible. My feet would cramp all the time. So I just had to move on. And I
You
still
knew
love
you
it.
knew you couldn't give it your all,
I
and you hit
couldn't.
that wall, and it
No,
was time for like a
no. And
change, right?
yeah, and I think, I was so lucky because I was able to trade that passion for what I do now, that I am now obsessed with. So
I
I'm fine.
traded that too. I traded my passion for basically in the studio for my gym with all the ladies at the Sisterhood of Sweat.
That's right.
Yeah. And I
Mhm.
think sometimes it's a bigger, greater purpose. You would have missed it if you were still trying to dance thousands of hours and I was trying
Yeah.
to do all the things I was doing. Why do you think that you said earlier, I want to back up to, you said weight gain isn't our fault.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of us out there blame and shame ourselves to death and feel like we're just not making it, that
Yeah.
we're rejects, that we failed when we can't look like this person or that person. We're comparing ourselves. So why do you say that it isn't our fault?
So there's a few reasons why I say it, but one reason in particular is because I find what happens is we have these triggers in our life and they change the way that we tolerate our food. So we can continue to eat the same way we did from the past, but following this trigger, it now results in weight gain instead. And we think, what the heck is going on? I haven't done anything significantly different, but I'm putting on all of this excess fat weight. And so what happens in our lives is we have these triggers, and these triggers change the way that we tolerate our food. So we eat this specific way that our body used to tolerate, and we start to accumulate this fat. And when we start to accumulate this fat, specifically in the belly, we call this belly fat visceral fat. It fills up the organs. It's like a gel, and it's different than the fat throughout the rest of the body. It fills up those organs, it wraps around the organs, it squeezes them tight,
It's
and
trying
over
to protect
time,
them.
yeah, yeah. Over time, it starts to grow its own blood vessels. So this fat mass, if you're carrying fat in the belly, it has its own blood vessels, it gets a little oxygen supply, and it starts to secrete hormones. So this fat mass is active in there. It's this fat mass that just wants to get fatter as fast as possible. So it has its own objectives. And it
Okay.
secretes these hormones that make you hungry and make you crave. And there's no willpower in the world that's going to overcome those physiological cravings. It slows your metabolism. So you can eat half as much food and pretty darn healthy and still put on weight. And it makes you lazy because the last thing this fat mass wants you to do is expend a ton of energy. So I look at this fat mass as if it has its own demands and desires and urges and cravings, and almost like it's a tumor. And so if you have this in there and you have all these hormones circulating around with the objective to get fatter as fast as possible, then we understand why the weight gain isn't your fault. It has nothing to do with willpower or poor discipline. A leaner individual does not have more willpower than a heavier individual. It's simply this metabolic hormonal situation that has kind of taken over the body.
So what do we do to fix it?
Well, the first thing is to realize that we've got to get the body all the way back where it's supposed to be, where its sweet spot is. So let's say we're carrying around a 60-pound fat mass and we only drop 30 pounds because at 30 pounds we look and feel good enough. Well, there's still half of this fat tumor in there, and your risk of regain is about 98% there. It's like shaving the top off of a weed and leaving the root if we don't get the body all the way where it's supposed to be for our unique selves. And that's different for each person. It's not BMI, it's not that height to weight ratio, because you can carry so much more muscle and weigh more than the next person at the same height, right? So it's really looking at your unique body, but getting the body all the way back where it's supposed to and maintaining that sweet spot where the metabolism is more fast and efficient. And then the second thing is recognizing that weight loss is largely an addiction recovery process for the majority of us. So working from a weight loss perspective, understanding that it's not just the nutrition, that's huge there, and the science behind when and what to eat, that's a big component, but also understanding that 80% of it comes from the mind, and looking at the mental, emotional, the habits, behaviors, and recognizing that it's an addiction recovery process. So those are the main two things there. And then obviously what we eat and when is going to be important too.
Well, and I was going to add, when you were dancing yourself to death almost, right? And, restricting yourself. And I was competing in too many shows at my age. I mean, not to say that you can't, but it was a lot for my age. And everything else that I was doing, it was a lot. Your body is smart. It wants to protect itself. And it's like, feels like it's under siege and like that fight or flight. And so once you kick that in, it's harder to reverse. And so I really, when I said that your body was protecting itself, I think like your body does know how to protect itself. So sometimes less is more, right? Like if you would not drive to the point where your body thinks it's being chased like a tiger.
Yeah, that's the severe caloric restriction, and that was actually what my research was on, looking at the effects of chronic undereating. And so that's why I went into the field, because I was a chronic dieter and I wanted to understand metabolically what's happening in the body when we chronically restrict calories and overexercise. And what I found is that when we do that, over time, our metabolism just shuts down. And as women, we'll experience the female athlete triad, which means poor bone health, stress fractures, and we lose our menstrual cycle and experience menstrual irregularities because the body just doesn't have enough energy available to function adequately.
Because it's trying to fight off this, it thinks somebody's attacking it. So like,
yeah. And the metabolism just realizes, okay, I'm only going to get so much energy. I've got to shut down because this is all that I can do to live. All these extra things, they're not extra, but our menstrual cycle takes energy. And if we don't give the body enough energy, then it's going to let go of that process. Making bones and supporting good bone health takes energy. That's why we get sick. And I think, professional athletes, research show that professional athletes get sick more often because immunity starts to depress a bit. So yeah, if we chronically restrict calories, we know from research, it shows that that's unsustainable and we'll regain whatever we've dropped through that method.
So that's basically the yo-yo phenomenon, right?
Yep. And there's the two aspects. We usually go about weight loss by eating less and moving more, so our metabolism is dropped down. And then we don't generally get the body all the way back where it's supposed to be and fully collapse that active, hungry fat mass. So we get halfway there. We haven't made a change metabolically, except for we've reduced our metabolic rate so we can only tolerate so many calories now. And we think, oh my gosh, I'm starving. I'm just going to eat like a normal person. And then all the weight comes back and we've yo-yoed. When it's not your fault. It has nothing to do with you, but metabolically, your body is just a mess.
Okay, I got it. Yes, I think everybody's taking the journey with you now. We're hearing how this whole progress, this process goes. So then again, then why do you think our weight loss is so much more complicated than calories in, calories out?
I mean, the understanding visceral fat, that it's just not about choosing some kind of ambiguous weight to reach just because we think it might feel good, but really getting our body back to its unique space. And for some of us, our trigger is birth, and genetically we just have a predisposition to store fat really well. Like our body's just really good at that. And I see so many clients like that, and we have to help guide them as to where their body really needs to be to fully collapse this active fat weight, because they've never been at a place where their metabolism has been fast and efficient. They've always had the struggle.
Yeah,
So
right. I saw all your befores and afters,
aren't they
and
amazing?
yeah, so impressive.
Yeah.
What kind of a holistic approach did you guys take to help your clients get this weight loss? Was it behavioral therapy? Is that essential for their success, or what did
Yes.
you do?
Yeah, well, the first step is making it really simple. We have to make the process as simple as possible, or else success doesn't happen. And so we have a really intensive approach where we create meal plans for our clients and guide them on exactly when and what and how much to eat throughout the day. So that's clear. And we also provide about 85% of the food for our clients at no additional cost. It's just a tool that our clients can use if they want. They can do all their own foods too, but that's one thing that I've found over my years of working with thousands of clients, is that we've got to make it simple. And so by providing some of the foods, it allows clients to see really big success. And so with us, breakfast, most of lunch, and snacks can be from our foods that they would pick up, or we would ship to them if they don't live near us. And then one meal a day, usually dinner, is on their own, so that they become an expert at one meal.
Yeah.
I think it's analogous to teaching someone how to ride a bike. Like if you just push them on this bike without training wheels and they've never ridden, they're probably going to fall quite a few times. Instead, if we can have training wheels and gently and carefully over time remove one after the other, then they're flying totally self-sufficient before they know it. So that's how we help with the food. So dinner, we will give recipes, dining out guides, takeout guides, really hold their hand so they become this expert and feel empowered and fully confident with dinner. And then we move on and practice lunch. And then we practice breakfast. So by the time we get the body where it needs to be, we've gradually released any of our foods. They're never dependent on it. They could travel the world and understand, what they need to eat to support their unique body. So that's the food aspect. That's important. Looking at nutrient timing and all of that. Macros, we put it all together. And then we have the education component from a nutrition standpoint. And, I disagree with conventional wisdom when it comes to nutrition. And so, like healthy fats, why we don't want to fear fat, why we need to eat fat. We're not keto or Atkins, but we're, what that unique individual needs. And we all tolerate fats differently.
Right.
We tolerate carbs differently. So understanding the difference there. And then we alternate nutrition education discussions with a ton of cognitive behavioral work. So the holistic approach comes in looking at each individual as a person and understanding that there's the mental, emotional, the habits, behaviors, the sabotaging thoughts, all of these aspects are hugely imperative to our long-term success. So every week we're sitting with one-on-one coaching and helping guide our clients in this way. And then once we get the body where it needs to be, our clients enter into maintenance. And from an addiction recovery standpoint, I think maintenance is where the work is to be done. And so maintenance with us is free and forever. We never leave our client's side. We're always there as a resource to help support them and guide them.
So why do you view it as an addiction recovery process? Because we have to live to eat. I mean, eat to live or whatever.
We're just, one aspect as to why we're largely addicted to foods is because of this fat mass in there and its urges and cravings hormonally and physiologically. And then the way that the foods are made from manufacturers trigger these addictive pathways in the brain that are similar to that of cocaine. And we know that from research. And then emotionally, we have strong ties to eat, not because we're hungry, but because we're stressed or celebratory or whatever that might be. So there are so many factors associated with why food is addictive, but it is definitely a part of the process for the majority of our clients. I always say that we're breaking the ties with the foods we say we love that don't love us
Well, I
back.
think like back in the caveman days, we probably didn't eat as much as we do now. Food was not as readily available.
Mhm.
And, that's probably part of it. And it didn't look like the way that it does, probably didn't taste the way that it does now.
Right.
So, like,
There
you're
were no
more
Doritos.
likely to overeat something, right? Huh?
I said there were no Doritos. They made those chips so that we just cannot stop.
Yeah, right. Because, well, it's also the MSG in there that, causes the cravings, and they're
Yeah,
overpowering your taste buds so that when you actually eat real food, you're like not thinking, you can't taste it really, like because you're overpowering your taste buds. I always tell people 2 weeks on real food without junk, you'll finally start tasting your food and being like, oh, that sweet potato was so good with cinnamon, like ambrosia, like or that Laura's Lean hamburger that I had with, I like to use paleo ketchup, but
yeah.
like it was like a steak dinner. It was so good. And just
Mhm.
getting used to the real taste of our food. What do you think causes cravings and hunger, and what should we do to get rid of the cravings? And we need to be hungry, but not to the point that we're overeating.
Right. Yeah. So what causes hunger and cravings? A lot of different things. One is when we have this fat mass in there that secretes these hormones that it decreases our hunger, it increases our hunger hormone and decreases our full hormone. So ghrelin is elevated, leptin is depressed, and so just generally we're hungrier people. And then when we eat specific foods, specifically carbohydrate rich foods above our carbohydrate tolerance level, it helps the body to secrete more insulin. And we know that insulin is inflammatory, it's anabolic, it promotes fat storage, and it just makes us so hungry for more of those carbohydrate rich foods. And so when we decrease those, it doesn't have to be like gone or really, really low, but just underneath our unique carb tolerance level, when we get it under there and we find that sweet spot, then we'll find that we're not ravenous and we don't have those cravings. We don't have the hunger. I mean, with our clients in 1 week, they'll say that they feel liberated from food. Whereas before they were just chained to it and they were hungry all the time. And I know when I was dancing and I lived in a state where I was watching fat grams, I didn't want to eat too much fat because I thought that would make me get fat, and I was counting calories. I was hungry all the time. And I was always thinking about food and eating every 3 to 4 hours. But when we eat in this unique way, we find that we're really rarely hungry. And when we are, it's a dull hunger. And it's a hunger where we can listen to ourselves and realize when we need to stop eating, and we're able to stop eating. So
Right,
our
right.
cues come back and they start to regulate.
Why do you think exercise is not a great weight loss tool? This is
Mhm.
probably my favorite question.
It's an awesome wellness tool. So I want to get that out there, that leading an active lifestyle is key and really important. But I find over and over again that weight loss is just not a huge weight loss tool. I mean, exercise is not a huge weight loss tool. And we can see this in the research. You would have to run 350 miles or cycle 1,000 miles just to burn 10 pounds of fat. And so when we look at there was another research study that came out looking at a group of heavier individuals, and they reduced their caloric intake and they had them exercise more. And you would think from a numbers in and out standpoint that everyone would have dropped 10 pounds within this specific study duration. No one dropped 10 pounds. The average person dropped 7, and there was a very large group that only dropped 2 to 3 pounds. And so the body, just like you mentioned earlier, Linda, it accommodates things. And it realizes when we're expending a lot more energy. And so it will accommodate for that. And our metabolism starts to decrease a little bit. And so we're burning less inside, and we can find that we just don't drop a ton of weight while we're moving. It's largely genetically determined as well. So some people listening to this will be like, that lady's crazy. I increased my exercise and I've dropped a ton of weight. Well, that's great, but that's not the majority of us. It's not how the majority of us function. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure many people listening are relating to that and realizing, but it doesn't mean you should chalk all your workouts out the window, because
No, I'm not saying that at all. We always encourage people to move.
The more muscle that you have, the you are burning more from having some muscle mass. And it isn't all just about weight loss. It's about, what is your body composed of? And is it healthy and strong? I always just think about building yourself up, building the body, building strength. And then, how do you want to feel at the end of the day? Clean, fresh. So like shopping the outer aisles of the grocery store where all the fresh food is and the real food, because real food does fill you up.
It does. Yeah. Real food in the right combos. I think even, if we eat paleo or vegan or whatever definition we want to give it, we still can find a way to not be healthy within those definitions. So really just, I think we can find paleo in so many food labels. When you look at the macros of it, it's equal to, its unhealthy fast food counterpart. So we just have to be aware.
I try to stay away from what I would overeat. Like if I would overeat it, I'm usually having question marks about it, because I know I like broccoli, but I'm probably not going to eat 2 bags. I mean, like, because it's going to fill me up and I'm going to be like, that was enough. It's real food. It's when we eat the fake food that you're never satisfied. It never fills you up. But like, I'm not going to eat 2 steaks, it's, I think it's just, your calories are denser when you're eating the real food, and when you're eating the fake food, it's just never going to be enough, is what, what I found anyway, with my various clients and experiments.
Yeah, I agree with that.
How much do you think then, because we started out talking about really our stress, because we were stressing our body, but I think there's all kinds of stress. There's workout stress, there's relationship stress, there's job stress. How much do you think stress impacts people's weight loss?
Oh, 100%. It impacts it. It impacts, just like I was saying, that we have these triggers in our life that change the way we tolerate our food. Those triggers are usually stress triggers. Relationship, job, everything we've been through in the last, year and a half has been such huge stress. And so for a lot of us, we can continue to eat the same way we did before all this stress. And now we start to pack on these COVID pounds. And that's because of stress. Our hormones change in the body when we're in a stress state. We have increased cortisol, which is, that stress hormone, promotes belly fat accrual. That helps to secrete insulin, which is that hormone I talked about that increases inflammation and promotes hunger and fat storage. So you can eat all the healthy things in the world, but if your body's in a stress state, it's not going to drop the weight like you would expect.
It won't. And I think my body was in a stress state from just all the things. And I really had to reorganize how I thought about a lot of things, and walk away from stressful situations, get plenty of sleep, say that if I did my 45-minute cardio, that was enough, not the let's do the overboard Linda Lou style cardio when she's competing.
Yeah.
So like I had to really resize what I was doing, but also just lessen the stress. And now my body is finally starting to work like the way that it did before.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah,
think we
I
get in a
think
stress storm, like a cortisol storm.
totally. Yeah, and it impacts our adrenals. And so that's primarily what we do is we figure out what are those stress triggers during our coaching with our clients and figure out how to overhaul that and how to overcome, because dropping weight is a process of letting go of this excess fat weight that might be holding us back that we no longer want, but also letting go of all the emotions that are tied to it.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
really shedding some negative beliefs, negative
yeah.
thoughts. And why did you, knowing why you want to lose the weight, or why were we working out that hard? What were we trying to
Mhm.
prove?
That's
Like
right.
just all the things that were behind why we were doing something when you really drill it down. And then that is eye-opening right there. And that is probably where you could start healing some of your thought processes.
Mm-hmm. I think that you're spot on with that. Also, the majority of plateaus we see, weight loss plateaus, are mental and emotional as well. If we beat ourselves up because we're not dropping weight fast enough, we'll see weight loss stalls. It's unbelievable. I'm so frustrated. I'm working so hard. Why isn't this weight dropping? And if their nutrition, we've looked at it, we've pinpointed it, their nutrition is right on track, their movement is right on track, then it's mental and emotional. It's just there's some kind of barrier in there that we have to help overcome. So
And
stress,
it's
the
so
mind,
true. I
yeah.
mean, I watched countless clients in the studio when they finally get the fact that they need to shed other things, then
Mhm.
they lose the weight.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Or if you can't visualize the weight that you're headed to, if you can't picture it in your mind and it be a reality there for you, your body's not going to be able to walk through the door and enter into it. So being able to visualize, what it looks like and feels like, who you're with, using all your senses, what you're wearing, you need to be able to visualize that so that you can step into that reality, almost create that new identity of what your goal is and live in that as if it's already your reality. And when you can do that, let's say you want to be sexy, vibrant, and lean, whatever that, maybe that's your identity, and you're 50, 80 plus pounds away from that goal of yours, then live as if you're already in that identity of the goal. And when you do that, you're going to find that the body is going to much more easily follow.
Yeah, because I think sometimes people are limiting themselves until they get to that goal. They're not going to go to that party because they don't feel good in their outfit.
Right.
They're not going to go do uh, whatever. They're holding themselves back in all sorts of ways
Mm-hmm.
because they're feeling less than. And if they would just start showing up for the things and doing the things and setting these, sometimes it's setting goals that make you a little uncomfortable, or going
Always. I think that's a goal. I think that's part of the definition of goal.
intentionally making yourself uncomfortable,
A little bit. Yeah.
because then you become more comfortable more often. And then all of a sudden you're like, I'm showing up as me again. I'm back to my normal weight. It's like this thing. And I think the more we see it in ourselves and call ourselves out in a way, in a kind way, the better off we're going to be. You had so many like befores and afters. What would you say is one of your favorite success stories?
That's a great question. So Sue is one of our clients, and she's up at the top because I just love her story. And she came in to see me, and she had, I think, over 100 pounds to drop. And she just came in and she said, she's entering into a retirement home, and she just wanted to be able to live the rest of her life with as little pain as possible and to be as independent as possible through that part of her life stage. And she just came in and she had experienced the yo-yo phenomenon and multiple weight loss failures, and she just came in and said that she was ready to have the faith, belief, and confidence in herself that she could slim down and do it for the rest of her life. And that she wasn't even going to have any kind of negative thoughts anymore, but just put the faith in what we do and just do it. And she did. And she dropped 100 pounds right within the time frame that I would estimate. Every week, she just came in so powerful with a mindset of bringing her A game and just committing and doing it. And I saw her not too long ago, and she said, you know, I just want to tell you, I feel like a sparkler. I said, well, what do you mean, Sue? What do you mean a sparkler? She's like, I just feel like from my head to my toes, I am just emitting this energy of love, of gratitude, of appreciation for what you guys have done for me, but also what I've done for myself. And now she just sparkles this vibration and this energy, and now just wants to go out and help others understand that they can do it if they want to, and that there is a way to overcome. And so I love Sue, and I love Sue's mindset.
Wow, I love stories like those. Those are what we all perk our ears up to. And that's like the inspiration of seeing somebody else's journey. What are just a few tips, like a few of your favorite tips for everybody listening today before we go on helping them with their transformations?
Sure, that's great. Let's see. So I say from a nutrition standpoint, for the majority of our clients, I like to let go of having lots of carbohydrates in the morning. So more of a healthy protein, fat-rich meal in the morning, because when we eat a real high carb load, and if you're, everybody's different, and if you're an athlete doing something specific, this might change. But I'm just saying for like the general population, having something that's more maybe like a few eggs with some veggies scrambled in it for breakfast instead of, say, a cereal with skim milk. In a smoothie, I wouldn't put a ton of juice or a ton of like, high glycemic fruits like banana and mango in there. I'd focus more on the protein powder, if that's what you put in there, some kind of healthy fats and maybe some berries instead of that kind of higher sugar fruits. And then if we're going to focus on putting in some clean carbs, more with the dinner meal, because we can tolerate carbs better in the evening. It helps to reduce cortisol, that stress hormone, increases serotonin, might help with our sleep better. Not saying that we have to have them in there, but if we're going to, choosing to kind of minimize the carbs for breakfast and throughout the day, and then maybe say a half of a sweet potato or a half cup rice or something, depending on your body size. At that dinner meal. So from a nutrition standpoint, that would be a really great tip. And then, as you're eating throughout the day, don't choose anything that's fat-free, low-fat diet. If you're going to have a salad dressing, choose a regular full-fat salad dressing, and really focusing on those healthier types of fat, say an olive oil, avocado oil-based salad dressing, rather than something that's vegetable oil, sunflower oil. Those are more kind of trending towards inflammation, which we don't want.
And loaded with tons of artificial sugar.
Generally, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So good today. Where can everybody get your book and get in touch with you?
Yeah, so our website is myphdweightloss.com, and right now my ebook is free and downloadable on the website. And then we do a lot on social media. So I have my own social media handles, which is Dr.Ashley Lucas, and then also through PhD, and that's just PhD weight loss on our social media.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed having you on, and I I love your story and how you transformed into helping others.
Yeah, thanks, Linda. And I appreciate your time and your story too. It was great.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
And thanks everybody for listening to this episode. Make sure you go check out Ashley's book and catch her on social media. Bye, everybody.